It was entirely coincidental that Nerd Pledge number was about playing cricket in New York at the same time as... So this week we got sent out the visualization of what the venue in New York is going to look like. I think this was a bit of damage control from the ICC because of the photo. Was it Peter Della Penna who took the photo out there, or one of the correspondents in the US took a photo of the current site as it was, which is literally just an empty green field. It's like the Manhattan one would have been in 1844. And they were like, there's supposed to be an India-Pakistan World Cup game played here in 5 months' time. Is that going to happen? So they've sent out some mock-ups, and it's basically going to be a big temporary, those permanent temporary stands that they have in a bunch of the grounds in England. You know, like I think the Basil D'Oliveira stand used to be like that at Worcester before they sort of finally built the permanent one. There was like an interim one in its place, or the one up at Manchester that they built, that huge scaffolding stand. So there'll be a lot of those sort of stands, but it's still supposed to be able to take 30,000 people when we get going in June.
That's correct. The grandstands you spoke about are from are the ones that were used for the Formula One, the Las Vegas Grand Prix. So they're just bringing those ones over from the west. Is it? From the west. And the ICC have said you're right. It'll be completed in 3 months. It was the end of January, so well before that India-Pakistan game. 34,000 fans will be there. There'll be the VIP hospitality suites and a party deck and cabanas, for the biggest party carnival. as you would. The stadium is also...
mean? What does that? As in, they're going to build cabanas like the little huts.
Yes, I think so. Just on the side, maybe they're just borrowing everything from every other sport that's been played in New York over the years. And the stadium is being designed by a company called Populous, who also designed the Narendra Modi Stadium. Don't forget. So that's one of their big, highlights. The Yankee Stadium and also the new Tottenham Hotspur Stadium.
Right. So this stadium's going to take 200,000 people. Is that what you're telling me?
Well, yeah. I mean, it'll be 34,000, but it could take 200,000. That's it. It could.
So this is it's in Nassau County. So it's on Long Island. If you know that part of the US, you'll know what I'm talking about. As in across the water, you've got Manhattan, and then you go across the water to Brooklyn and Queens. I got on a little rabbit hole of reading up about the history of this part of New York the other day, because it's a city I'm interested in. Me and Steve Smith, our interests include New York City. Yeah. So Queens County became one of the 5 boroughs, which you'll know about the 5 boroughs if you know the Beastie Boys back catalogue. Well, Queens County becomes one of the boroughs of New York City, even though it's part of Long Island, and it splits off from the rest of... So the eastern part of Queens County splits off, and then the rest of Queens County has to become its own thing. You need your own identity. You've got to go out there in the world and become yourself. So it becomes Nassau County, which is a Dutch royal family name. And that's where Nassau Coliseum is, which is this big sporting arena. It used to be where the Islanders, the ice hockey team, played, and I think the Brooklyn Nets used to play there as well at times. It's just one of those cultural references. It's in the middle of a Lauryn Hill bit from what is it? Everything is Everything. The El Boogie Spars were stars and constellations, and came down for a little conversation adjacent to the king. Fear no human being. Roll with cherubim to Nassau Coliseum. And so it was always one of those. I always wondered what Nassau Coliseum was, but it was a big venue for musical shows, so that's her reference is going there to play, because that's where all of the huge acts used to get. Springsteen played there a lot, the Rolling Stones, the Jacksons, Elvis, Beach Boys, Led Zeppelin, Madonna all played big shows there. Frank Zappa's last ever performance was at Nassau Coliseum. The Highwaymen played there, Johnny Cash's country supergroup, and Billy Joel played a lot there before he became a Madison Square Garden fixture. Right. I think Billy Joel's playing his last Madison Square Garden show this year. I think he's finishing up finally his monthly residency, but he used to play a lot at Nassau Coliseum. And I'm surprised you haven't brought this up yet. WrestleMania 2 was shot. I was just
waiting for you to finish. The Nassau Coliseum has played such a big role in pro wrestling history, especially the Vince McMahon Senior and Vince McMahon era, because think about it, they were in the North. I mean, they were a New York-based territory, and they used the Nassau Coliseum a lot. Some historic moments in wrestling have taken place, and I have to apologize for the lot of barking at the back. Ironically, our dog's behavior therapist that just arrived, so not a very good start for them is all I'll say.
I mean, they don't spend a lot of time barking, but that was definitely, like, having been at your house for the last week, that's the most sustained, prolonged period of barking that I have heard in the entire time.
That's
irony.
That is irony.
Somebody send a note to Alanis Morissette. That is a correct example of irony. All right, what do we got? Zimbabwe knocking over Sri Lanka. I mean, admittedly only in one game, but it was a pretty great T20 series as far as T20 series go. Zimbabwe lost 2 of the 3 ODIs. One of them was a washout. I think we talked about those last week. And then the T20s, I mean, they had 2 belters back-to-back. They lost the first one somehow, Zimbabwe, despite poor old Sikandar Raza. God, we talk about him as this tragic figure on this show. He makes 62 or 42 balls. He bowls 4 overs and takes 3 for 13. He turns the screws through the middle, and then Sri Lanka get away late. Angelo Matthews is there. Dustin Shannakin bashes a few. Blessing Wasarabani is bowling the last over with 14 to defend. Matthews gets him out for 46 with 2 balls to go. They need 6 to win, and then Chimera walks in, hits a 4 and a 2 and wins the game off the last ball for Sri Lanka. You're like, that must hurt. And then in the second match, Zimbabwe finally get them. And it's chasing a big score too. Sri Lanka makes 173. Asalanka 69. Matthews 66 not out. He's playing well. Angelo still mad about being timed out, and he's just taking it out on the ball. And they chase 173 with almost nothing from Sikandar Raza, who gets out for 8, and they chase it anyway. I liked the contrast of Craig Irvin making 70. Brian Bennett at first drop makes 25. Craig Irvin's 38 years old. Brian Bennett is 20. So exactly. the timelessness and the future. And then there's a middle order slide, and then Luke Jongwei, who's already got out Kusal Mendes and Asalanka with the ball, comes out at number 7. Whacks a couple of 6s early in the over from Matthews, needs 20 off the last over, takes 20 off the 5 balls. One of them's a no ball as well. Angelo Matthews probably shouldn't be bowling the last over, but they didn't quite get their rotations right, Sri Lanka. And Luke Jongwei finishes off the game, and there was that beautiful detail that someone dug up of his Facebook profile picture from 10 years ago used to be Angelo Matthews, who was his favourite player.
That's lovely. Yeah.
And Jongwei belted him around to win the game and couldn't believe it. They went on to lose the third T20 Zimbabwe, but it was nice to see them get an upbeat moment.
Yeah, I don't know. Something about Sri Lanka Zimbabwe cricket makes me very nostalgic, right? If you go back to the 90s, there'd be this cricket everywhere. And then even after Sri Lanka won the World Cup, that was a big rivalry, right? Every time Sri Lanka went to Zimbabwe, or Zimbabwe, before Bangladesh became a test nation and all that, some wonderful cricket used to be played by those 2 teams. Then obviously Sri Lanka just broke free and became a world power across pretty much all conditions and started beating Zimbabwe up. But yeah, every time Zimbabwe runs Sri Lanka close these days in a series. And look, I mean, they went and did really well in a test match in Sri Lanka as well a couple of years ago, was it? Did they win a test, or they came very close to winning a test? I almost feel like they won a test, so ran them close. So I don't know, it makes me nostalgic. But you're right. I mean, even some of these names, Luke Jongwei has been around for a while. Craig Irvin, I'm sure Adam Collins has jumped on the board and made some connection, joining Craig Irvin to the first ever one-day international played. That's something Colo loves to do. But yeah, I mean, I still can't believe Zimbabwe blew that chance of qualifying for the 50-over World Cup. I mean, as fun as the Netherlands were, Zimbabwe, I think, would have added a bit more flavor than even the Netherlands did.
Some of the players they've been able to produce, and I mean, and I know we talk about Sikandar Raza a lot, but the missing opportunities to see him play on the big stage is so disappointing when we've seen the way that he's been able to elevate his game when he's playing against really good opposition. The Zimbabwe women are playing at the moment as well against Ireland women, which is been quite an interesting series. Ireland smashed them in the first game, won by 10 wickets. Both the games so far have been rain affected, and then the second match was a tie, an ODI tie with a Duckworth-Lewis intervention. So Zimbabwe made 226 in 50 overs, and then there was a rain-reduced target of 203 to win in 43 overs, and Ireland made 202 for 9. So they ended up tying that game. There was no super over played, so that's a rarity with a rain-reduced tie in 50 over cricket, and another rarity with the double super over in the India-Afghanistan game. Can you try to catch people up with the madness that happened there?
Yeah, we saw the highlights the other day, didn't we, after the Adelaide Oval Test? So, yeah, I mean, India make...
we were sitting there watching it, and so was it Andrew Ramsey? It was like, what are you doing? And we're like, well, we're watching this game. And he's like, that game's already happened. And we're like, yes, but the highlights are on now.
Exactly. So India make 212 for 4. In batting first, Rohit makes a big 121 not out. And, there was some talk before the series, right, when Rohit Sharma and Virat Kohli were both picked in the squad saying, come on, India, when will you move on? And India lost quick wickets. They lost Virat Kohli first ball, Shivam Dubey just made one, Sanju Samson first ball, Fareed Ahmed was running through that middle order. In came Rinku Singh, and I think they put on a record partnership from 22 for 4 to 212 for 4, unbeaten. Rinku Singh makes 69 not out. It's amazing. I mean, look, we've seen so many IPL stars not really make the step up. I mean, Sanju Samson, he's not just an IPL star, but he's struggled over there. But Rinku Singh's just taken his IPL form into international cricket. Hits 6 sixes. Rohit hits 8 sixes. So India, who have already won the series, are sitting pretty, you would think. But it was a really good run chase, and we saw a lot of highlights of that. A good start from Gurbaz and Ibrahim Zadran, who made 100 at the Wankhede in front of us in that Glenn Maxwell innings. And then they lose their way a little bit. Mohammad Nabi hits a few sixes, but it's good old Gulbuddin Naib with the big biceps who keeps them in the game.
Yep.
And
he was sensational. The way he was hitting the ball was, that is by far the best I've ever seen him play.
Oh, yeah, exactly. With the bat in particular, he was smashing it. And it comes down to, I think, 2 of 1 ball. They managed to scramble across for a single after a few wickets fall. Mukesh Kumar bowls their last over, and it's a tie. So
I think they got 2. They got 2 off the last ball, didn't they? They needed 3 off the last ball.
They needed 3 off the last. They needed 5 off 2 and 3 off 1. That's correct.
They needed 5 off 2, and Gulbuddin hits a 2, and then he needs 3 off the last ball. So he needs 4 to win effectively, because there are no 3s in T20 cricket, and they've managed to get back for the second and tie it.
Yep. And get to the first super over. So as it stands, they have to... they bat first, which is Afghanistan bat first. Mukesh Kumar bowls the over, a couple of 6s and 4s for them. So they finish with a good super over score of 16 runs. And you think, can Afghanistan pull off this big super over win against India? Well, Rohit Sharma walks out with Yashasvi Jaiswal. I think Rinku Singh as the third batter. Rohit starts off well, leg by 6, and now you just need 2 runs off 2 balls, so you think it's pretty straightforward. But he only manages a single, tries to hit someone over cover, hits the toe end of the bat. And then, in what would become a controversial move, he says, okay, I'm retiring hurt because we need a faster runner to finish the thing off. And I think in walks Rinku Singh, and they need 2 of the last ball. And what do you know it? They only manage 1. So the super over gets tied. And you can see Rahul Dravid and Vikram Rathore in the dugout. They don't know what's happened. Rahul's doing his own... I can't believe this. I can't believe this. I can see in the...
they were just laughing at that point. Like,
I know, exactly.
What else do you do?
So now the big, not controversy, the big talking point was Rohit Sharma walks out to bat in the second super over. So the or at least the debate was, hey, but didn't he retire hurt in the first super over? But the rule is that...
it's that he retired out, right? He retired out. He didn't say he was injured. He retired. That's a dismissal.
It is.
So I did see a lot of people saying, "Oh, well, he wasn't dismissed." But if you retire, it counts as a dismissal against your average on your career record.
Correct.
For instance.
Correct. Yeah.
It is a dismissal. It's just a self-administered dismissal. You have been dismissed. You can't return. If you're retired out, you can't come back and bat later. For instance.
Yep, that's correct. I think, but that's where the whole super over rules kind of, it's like a penalty shootout, right? Goals you score in a penalty shootout, or runs and wickets you take in a super over don't count. So that was the rule thing that was discussed by the umpires, and they said, well, but that super over is over. This is another super over. I think it's one of those, maybe it's a gray area that might get discussed in the future. But yeah, Rohit Sharma does walk out, and India don't get as big a score as Afghanistan do in their super over. They just make 10. But so Afghanistan need 11 to win. They lose 2 wickets in the first 3 balls, and it's all over. Ravi Bishnoi is given the super over here, not Mukesh Kumar, and he bowls a couple.
I love that. I love that move. Give the leg spinner the chance to. The spinners never get used in these situations, or rarely.
Yeah, exactly. And it's a double super over finish, 2 better than 1. Now everybody would want an India-Pakistan game to have 5 super overs. You know how these things go. So maybe New York brace up for it.
18 super overs. Courtney Vine to take the ball in the last super over, the longest super over finish of all time. And I feel for this Afghanistan team. They seem to have made an art of losing some really close games where they take it up to a much better resourced opposition. Australia in the World Cup, there was that ODI against Pakistan that they somehow managed to lose right at the very end when Naseem Shah edged a ball down through deep third for 4. I mean, they've got these games where they really, really more than compete. I mean, the fact that they even managed to tie after that massive first inning score was sensational in itself. So, yeah, they make an art of getting so close and not quite getting there, and I suppose that's the next step.
That is,
for them, given that they're.
I mentioned Sri Lanka earlier. Remember in the mid-90s, they went through that phase as well. I remember a game against Sharjah, but they almost toppled the West Indies, but Hashan Tilakaratne just fell short. And then the 96 World Cup happened and everything changed. So I think with Afghanistan, every time you see whoever they're facing up against, across all conditions, they seem to find ways of getting into those winning positions, which is actually at times more challenging than becoming a team who wins a lot. So I think it'll just take that one more step, and I'm sure they'll start doing it.
And in this glut of T20 cricket that's going on in New Zealand and Pakistan that you mentioned earlier, Finn Allen, 137 from 62 balls in, I think it was the 3rd game of that series. 16 sixes in that innings. Extraordinary striking from him, and he's been recognised as this upcoming talent for a long time. But he delivered on it there. Only 5 fours to go with the 16 sixes. So extraordinary innings. 6 other players made single-figure scores in that innings. The next best score was 31. They still made 224 for 7. Babar Azam 58. Mohammad Nawaz made 28 in quick time, but they lost by 45 runs there. The 4th game, they had Rizwan make 90 not out at the top of the order, but Pakistan only made 158. New Zealand chased that comfortably. Mitchell 72, Phillips 70, both not out. Did that only a couple of wickets down. And by the 5th game, so Saim Ayub had this. The first game he made 27 off 8 balls, but it didn't make many sense. So he got left out by the time they got to the 5th game, which is disappointing. We enjoyed his work in the Test match. We'd like to see him get a go. Azam Khan, the wicket keeper, got a couple of games, got left out. Fakhar Zaman is back. He's not really been a fixture in the T20 team. He's come and gone. He's in the middle order at the moment. I was just looking at his record earlier. His last 9 T20 internationals have been against New Zealand. I wonder if that's a record to have a streak that long against one team. Mohammad Nawaz came back partway through the series. I mean, God love him. Talk about tragic figures. I would love to see Mohammad Nawaz do something, succeed. He made a few useful little scores, but he just, bad luck seems to happen to him. But yeah, the 5th game they finally got a win. Pakistan turned around after losing 4 in a row and bowled out New Zealand for 92. Iftikhar Ahmed, 3 wickets, runs for Rizwan and for Fakhar in the middle order. So they at least got a win. And more importantly for New Zealand, Kane Williamson's done his hamstring, so he'll miss out on beating up on the South Africa 5ths team and will be trying to get back for the Australian tests by the end of Feb.
Very nice sounding names in that Pakistan team. Hasibullah Khan and Sahibzada Farhan. So, I don't know. I sound like Harsha Bogle here, kind of getting excited about nice sounding Urdu names, but or Muslim names, but they're very good. To see some new names in that team. Again, some debate about Babar Azam, Rizwan. Should they be there? Should they not be there? Good to see them get a win out. Yeah, Fakhar Zaman batted at number 4 for a change, and so that's good. But you spoke about Ifti Mania. I think one of my favorite parts of the series was, I don't know whether you saw that clip where some Pakistani fans are kind of calling him Chachu. Chachu means your father's younger brother, basically your uncle. And that's names followed him throughout his career, unfortunately. And he gets very annoyed. He turns around and says, like, stop calling me Chachu. And you can hear the Pakistani fan go, but I love you. I'm your fan. And then he says, then don't call me Chachu. I don't know. It's just Iftikhar Ahmed getting pissed off with people for calling him their uncle. It's just kind of really funny for me. But
He does look to have a vintage. He and Lloyd Pope, could be sitting on the front porch together chewing tobacco or something. Like they both look like they've been around the block a few times.
Yes, that's correct. Oh, I think your description about him when we were doing commentary on the World Cup game was the best. He's come from the other side of the mountain to save the village or something. That was one of the best lines I've heard about him.
He has a weathered look. He has an outdoor look. He looks like he's been outside for a lot of his life.
Very much so.
All of that's going on. I had one question I should have asked you earlier in the show, but I was just curious about your observations in the nets of the Steve Smith opener thing. Is that?
Oh yeah.
What have you made of watching him prepare for it in net sessions? Because you're always there watching his back foot.
Yeah. Yeah, indeed. And his front foot and his hands. No, he was very excited. I've never seen... he looked like a kid going to a new school. Like he's like, oh, I have a new school to go to. And I saw the first couple of balls he faced. First ball was just outside off stump, pushes it through the cover. He's like, oh, that's 3 runs. If I was batting number 4, that would go straight to the field. Like, yay. Second ball is like a foolish ball on his pads. He on-drives it for 4. He's like... 7 of 2. I'm 7 of 2. I'm loving it. And then Usman Khawaja batting in the adjoining net goes, oh, it feels like the bull never left. What happened to you? No. I can bat like him. Look at me. And then he was that was him. And right. He even asked me to keep an eye on some of his things with his batting. And there was one period where he wanted to see where his back foot was going in relation to his off stump. And eventually saw him with the way he got out and almost got out in the second innings as well, where he went a bit too far across in trying to protect that off stump. So I think those are things that Steve and I will work on in Brisbane. I'm just kidding, but he will work on, and I'll watch him do that. Just wanted to say that. But I think just overall excitement. You could see it in the brief innings he did play in the 2 innings or in the test match. So apart from that, he faced a brilliant spell from Pat Cummins in the net, and I forgot to I'll tweet that out at some point. It just tells you how difficult Pat Cummins is to face. He gives, even in the net, he gives you nothing away. It just hits that Pat Cummins length over and over again, and that was a good battle to see, 2 world-class performers at each other. So yeah, I think he is going to come good. He's just loving this new promotion, and like all kids, new school, it take a week or so to get used to. And also I think he'll also realize getting out to that ball from Shamar Joseph is what happens to test openers all the time. So even that is a lesson for him.
Something you just have to get used to. All right, I think that's it. I think that brings us to the end of our show for this week. The final word.
Just one thing, can I just
program. This is season 15, episode 21.
Some news,
you can
just some news coming in. It's embargoed for 2 more minutes, but by the time this goes out, it'll be fine. A couple of changes in the Australian ODI side, and a couple exciting changes. So Glenn Maxwell's been managed, so he's fine. He's being replaced by Jake Fraser McGurk, or Rooster as we know him. And he's had a sensational domestic season, that world record score in List A cricket in the Marsh Cup, a couple of good knocks in in Shield cricket, and what a BBL he's had. So very, very excited to see him come in at 21, very, very highly rated. Good things happen to people who move to South Australia, as we know. And the other bit is a little disappointing. Jai Richardson, we don't know what injury it is, but he's injured now. So Xavier Bartlett, who's had a very good, I think he's had 3-4 good seasons for Queensland, tall fast bowler, so he's replacing him. So Bartlett and Fraser McGurk have come in for Maxwell, or Jai Richardson and Maxwell. So just some news out there before we leave.
Bartlett for Australia, it's happening. Momentum, the campaign is on. All right. Thank you, Bharat, for the breaking news. Thanks to everybody for listening. If you want to support the show, patreon.com/thefinalword. If you want to get your discount VPN or sort out your superannuation, the links are in the show notes. And if you want to find out more about the Edinburgh marathons that we're running, half marathons, all the rest of it at the end of May, you can find links there as well. You can find us on the internet. You can get involved with what we're doing in many ways there. You know how to track down information on the World Wide Web. That's it. This has been The Final Word. Thanks, Bharat, for joining the show. I'm Jeff Lemon. We'll see you next time.